What's up, everyone, and welcome to the RRBG podcast. In this episode, I talk to the legendary Dennis Lyxzen of Refused and Invasion and Noise Conspiracy and Venice Casino and Fake Names. Lots of bands. The guy is a prolific musician, political activist. You may have heard Refused's music in the video game Cyberpunk 2077. Or you may have checked out their latest record, War Music. That's a fantastic album. We talked about that. We talked about the shape of punk to come, coming up on their 25th anniversary of that. We talked a lot about politics. We talked about the pandemic. We talked about his love of music. It was a really great conversation, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to follow him at Dennis Lyxzen on all the social medias. Make sure to pick up the new Invasion record, Let the Night Love You. It's fantastic. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit the little bell. All the little things there that'll help us fight the system together. And if you get a chance, check out our Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/RRBG and support the show. Cheers. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast. I am being joined by the often imitated, never duplicated, Dennis Lyxzen of Refused and Invasion. How are you, brother?
I'm pretty good. How are you, man?
I'm all right. I'm feeling better. I actually, due to me not understanding time zones, I actually woke up at 1 o'clock this morning to do the podcast.
Let's do this interview now. No way. It's in 12 hours.
Yeah, man. I set an alarm. I was like, I guess I have to, it's fine. I've done worse. I've done like 5 a.m. for some people in Europe, that crazy time zone differences. So I was ready. I was ready for it.
I'm glad. I think from our communication, you've been ready for a while.
That's true. We've been trying to do this podcast for a long time, so I'm really happy that we're finally doing it.
Yes,
thank you for joining me. First off, let's talk a little bit about Invasion. I know you guys recently put out an album.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about it. I know it's been around for a very long time. People may not realize that it's from the 90s almost, right?
Well, the band, Invasion is, we started as the Lost Patrol band, which played power pop. And then, Invasion's, we've been around for a good, I'd say it's almost 15 years, kind of low key for the first couple of records. And then we've done 3 records in English. We did 2 records in Swedish before that.
Oh, okay.
It's, I would say Refused is the main band, but Refused is very spotty in when we actually do stuff. We're very, few and far in between. So Invasion is probably the band that I spend the most time working on.
Okay.
And we just put out a new record in June called Let the Night Love You, which I think it's a fantastic little record we have. It was recorded before the pandemic, and it was supposed to come out in 2020, but we all know what happened. So it's one of those, like, it's just been sitting bit frustrating just to wait for something to come out. And then the record came out. We did a couple of shows, and then our keyboard player, she had a kid, so we had to take a little bit of a break. But we're going to start touring, well, now, I guess, after the summer. So we're going to start playing shows again. I'm very excited.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I was listening to the album, and it's listed as post-punk, but I feel like they're just throwing that tag on you now whenever you do something.
I guess. It definitely, when we started Invasion, it was definitely more of a post-punk feel to it. Not sure what the latest record is, really. I don't know. It's good music.
Yeah, it feels very, electronic, synth heavy, but almost 80s-ish.
Yeah, kind of ish.
Yeah. So what are your main influences in that? I know you don't try to copy anyone, but there's obviously certain bands that influenced that style of 80s. So what would you say?
It's tricky. I think it's interesting because Andre, the drummer, is the main songwriter. He writes most of the bulk of the music, and he just listens to new music. He's basically one of those dudes. He's the guy that has on his arm, he has a tattoo that says 80s hardcore.
Okay.
Like a very good tattoo. But I mean, when it comes to that type of more synth heavy industrial tinged music, he listens to a lot of new music. I don't think, I mean, obviously you have your 80s post-punk like Bauhaus and Depeche Mode and that kind of stuff, but I think his influences are way more with like, you know, Soft Moon or just that type of scene basically. But I mean, you know, it is interesting because the older you get, the less you care about, you know, what you want to sound like. You know what I mean? Because when you're young, it's like you start a band and you go into a practice space and someone says, this band, we're going to sound like this band. Yeah. Right. And that's kind of how you start. And with INVSN, it's like you take a little bit of everything, a little piece here and a little piece there, and then you try to come up with something that's your own. We did, I must admit, which I didn't think about at all when we were writing the record, but we did get a lot of Depeche Mode comparisons in the reviews for the record, which I was a little bit surprised, but then listening to it, I'm like, maybe not. It definitely has a little bit of that feel to it. That it is interesting because, all right, it makes sense because Depeche Mode were like a synth band that discovered rock music, and then they did their records with like the weird crossover between synth and rock. We're definitely the opposite. We're definitely like a rock band that discovers synth music. So maybe it makes sense. I don't know. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up, you know, I listened to a lot of different types of music, a lot of punk music growing up, a lot of, you know, Latin music, but also a lot of gothy, synthy, industrial type music as well. I mean, it's right up my alley, and my wife is into it as well. So she's into it. But I noticed you guys, you were gone from 2016. You took a break, I guess, with INVSN.
No, Refused just started touring.
Oh, okay, all right. So that was it.
It's like it's one of those like you know, like INVSN. We do take too much time in between the records, just because of life, you know, like you put out a record, then you work hard for a year, and then I'm off doing other stuff, and the other people in INVSN also have other projects. It's like one of those things where, like, you know, it gets really intense for a period of time. And I mean, we had some bad luck, as I said. Like, we had a record slated to come out in like May of 2020, and the pandemic hit, and the pandemic hitting made the record label drop us, and they were like, oh, we need to restructure the record label. So, you know, it's been one of those bands, a lot of starts and stops for INVSN. It's kind of frustrating, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, but at least you got it out, you know, and now, you know,
it is out.
Yeah, you played some shows, you got, you know, like you're on a break right now because of maternity leave, but still, like, there's a promising future there.
Oh yeah. I'm super excited. Just playing the new songs live was a lot of fun, and we're actually doing a TV show in Sweden next weekend. So we're going to be restarting the whole campaign. I'm very excited about that.
Very cool. Like, you mean like a late night show where you perform?
Yes.
Oh, very
cool. It's a late night show in Sweden, but the demographic's quite old, so it'll be interesting to see what that does. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool to kind of restart again. After, I mean, Kiki, she had a kid like 3 weeks ago, so it's kind of, I mean, fucking kudos to her to be like, yeah, I'll come up and play. I'm like, that's rad. So
hell yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I know that's a painful experience. I'd be in bed for months.
Yeah. No, so that's cool. And then we have a European tour lined up, and this fall, and we have some Swedish dates lined up. So it's exciting. Yeah.
It's interesting that you brought up that, you know, the older you get, you stop caring about what you sound like. But it's not just that. It's also, you know, you stop caring about these weird, like, elite criticisms that you do with certain genres. Like, when I was in my 20s, I was very, like, rigid into what I was listening to. I'm like, I have to only listen to heavy music, and the heavier the better, you know. And then now in my 40s, I'm exploring all these things and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember listening to that when I was a kid and liking it, and like allowing myself to enjoy more as opposed to just being angry about the type of music it is, you know?
Yeah. I think it's like you relax a little bit. And I think it's also something to be said about the joy of music. Because I'm with you. Like when the formative years, identity becomes maybe more important than the music. And also in your formative years, when you are like I'm into hardcore, you listen to a lot of bad hardcore because it was hardcore.
Yeah.
So as you grow older, it doesn't really apply. It doesn't, sure, we all have friends that are like still kind of narrow-minded in how they approach musical discoveries. But I was one of those people that like when I discovered punk and hardcore, it expanded my mind. I was like, anything's possible. I can listen to anything. And the older I get, the more relaxed I am about, because sometimes people ask me, oh, what's your guilty pleasure? I'm like, I have no guilty pleasures. It's all great. If I like it, it's great. It doesn't matter how credible or cool it is. It's just great. So it is also interesting revisiting stuff that you thought were kind of lame back in the day with that open mind and be like, is this actually lame or was it just a pose from,
Right.
was it just a pose? And then you can discover some cool stuff when you're like, oh, wow, this is actually, I get why people were into this. So, I get what, so it's just, music is just, if your mind is open, there's so much great music out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've changed so much, even in the recent years. Like I used to be very vocal about how much I didn't like Nickelback. I still don't really listen to them, but now instead of talking shit, I'm just like, yeah, well, they're doing it. They're selling millions of records. Let them do it, and people love it and whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I think that I get that. And sometimes I'm like, it kind of makes sense. People can do whatever they want. It's fine. But there's something to be said about when, all right, so here's my take on it. I don't know what the latest boy band is, whatever,
Sure.
I don't really care. They can do whatever they want to do. But as soon as stuff gets kind of adjacent to what I'm doing, it gets a bit more like Nickelback. I'm like, I don't know about that. That's a bit weird because then people can come up to me and say like, oh, you play rock music. I like rock. I like Nickelback. And I'm like, it's not really that, it's not really the same thing,
Yeah.
But if someone says, I'm into whatever, Harry Styles or something, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. We're not really, we're not doing the same thing basically.
Sure. Yeah.
There's I think for me, maybe as a musician, some of the bad rock out there, it's still a bit touchy.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad rock out there. That's so I stopped listening to the radio. I can't listen to the radio.
Yeah. I haven't listened to the radio forever, and I have a TV, but I have no channels at all. So I don't really, also about we're not. This whole conversation should not be about us getting older, but as I grow older, I really want to pick and choose my cultural intake. Like when you're watching TV and you're zapping channels, or when you're listening to the radio, someone else dictates your cultural intake. And as I grow older, I'm like, I'm not interested in that. This is what I want to listen to. This is what I want to read. This is what I want to watch. I think that for me is like, I got rid of all the TV channels, everything. I'm like, I mean, streaming services, of course, but then I can actually choose what I want to watch. So, I mean, it's just, I think that's also for me, just like the disposal of time. Like, how do I dispose my time?
That is the most valuable thing as we get older, man. And that's something that you should teach people in school, like how important every minute of your life is, because you don't, I don't need to waste. Like I have friends that, oh my God, check out this video. This guy really sucks. And I'm like, why? Why am I going to waste 10 minutes of my life on a terrible thing,
I mean, if it's terrible enough,
Well, yeah,
enough,
to where it's
but
comedy.
if it's just bad, yeah. And I mean, it ties in with. I mean, we live in a culture where if we put out a bad record, or no, let's not use us as an example. Too many people have too many. There's too many opinions about what we do. But
Yeah.
if Slayer puts out a new record and I don't like it, you know what I do? I continue with my life.
Yeah. Don't listen to
I
it.
don't feel the need or the urge to go on their Instagram, on their Facebook, and be like, "Your record sucks. You sold out." It blows my mind that people take the time to do stuff like that. I'm like, why? I mean, I don't know. It's a bit. Speaking of time and doing something constructive with your time.
Yeah, I mean, I see you see it with TV shows too. Like, oh, the finale of this show sucked. It's like, well, you don't watch it.
No one forced you to watch.
Why are you watching this? Because everybody else is watching it, and you want to be able to talk to them about it. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So
there's something about the democratization of everyone's voices with like Twitter and Instagram and social media, where everyone has an opinion and everyone thinks I mean, I'm not going to say that their opinion doesn't matter, but a lot of the people that do the negative comments on YouTube or on, bands pages, they used to be the person that just sat in the room, screamed at the wall. And now all of a sudden they have this voice where they can be like, my voice matters. And as an artist, it can be quite disheartening when you see all those comments. You're like, well, this person obviously didn't listen to the record or obviously didn't. So it's a bit weird that social media gave everyone a voice to, say whatever nonsense they wanted. I mean, I guess it's fine, but it's a bit frustrating at times.
I mean, as long as you're trying to use it in a positive way. Like for me, for example, I have known, like, I shouldn't have this show. It exists and it's been doing well and I'm very happy for it. But my opinion shouldn't, be better than anybody else's or above anybody else's. But, I try and not talk trash. Like, just make it positive. I don't know. I feel like, your message in your music a lot of the times is very political or, anti-establishment, anti-oppression and all of that. And I'm not saying that oppression doesn't exist. Obviously, it still does. But I feel like the bigger problem now is that what we're talking about, the social media, the people that are using it as a platform for hatred, and also, those oppressive forces that are using that as a way to continue their oppression.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a perfect way to spread fear and misinformation, and we all saw what happened when people came out as anti-vaxxers and all the nonsense that goes on. And I mean, social media is used in a quite deliberate warfare against people, and I mean, it's a perfect way to divide and conquer. So yeah, I mean, all the problems that we always talked about, they're still there. I mean, obviously, things aren't really
great
moving
or
in the right direction.
Good or even good. Yeah.
No, but I mean, definitely like the internet and social media definitely amplifies a lot of these problems, and with the algorithms and the way people consume media. It definitely made for a more polarizing society, and it definitely made, as you said, I mean, a lot of people use their time and their energy to spread hatred and fear and misinformation, and I think politics has become a game of you see someone, they say something and you take it out of context and you twist it, and that's politics. And I mean, for me, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, that's just weird. And we had an election in Sweden 2 days ago, and that the whole debate climate leading up to the election was just like, it was just that he said this, he must be the real fascist, and you're like, that's not what but it is definitely problematic with the way that social media shapes our lives. Yeah.
It's a very weird thing. I have a constant struggle internally with that because like I mentioned, I grew up, punk rock, very DIY, very, let's fight the system. And as I get older, that becomes blurry and like overwhelming maybe, but just kind of like, how do I fight the system when it feels so overpowering? And then it's the same with social media. Like, I don't want social media to go away, because that's how I communicate with friends from across the country. That's how I'm able to have this show. Musicians are able to promote their albums. But how do you not control? See, that's the thing. That's the debate in my mind. How do we fix this? Well, maybe by controlling it, or maybe by introducing, you need a permit to post online. Then it becomes then now you're like, oh, well, that's oppression. I don't need a permit. It should be freedom of speech. So it's like it just feels very blurry.
Yeah. And I mean, how do you balance out the positive aspects of, as you said, like, you're able to communicate with your friends, we're able to sit here in real time talking to each other across the globe.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing,
Yeah.
But how do you balance that with everything that goes on that's definitely not great for us, So, I mean, to be fair, social media, the internet, everything, this information obesity that we have and everything that goes on, all of this is quite new. And I am hoping that we can balance it out and make for a climate where these things can be used as constructive tools to build a better world. But then maybe, and that's the tricky part, like, maybe you need to adjust some of the ways that we use it, adjust some of the parameters for, how to use it. But I don't know. I'm not really, if I had solutions to these problems, I would be at the Nobel Peace Prize dinner and not talking to you. So,
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah. And it's, the only thing I could even possibly think of is that we should start in schools, educate the kids on how to properly use it. Instead of teaching them, calculus, which no one really uses unless they're going to become a rocket scientist or something. Like, teach them about being a good person, not all that kind of thing. Like, I don't know. I feel like there should be ways, but it's a fight that, sometimes you just want to give up the fight. And the same happened with me. And I used to be very like, put on a black ski mask and let's go protest, and like set, whenever there's like a convention of politicians, go protest. And like, I don't see any movement in the positive direction, so it just feels like a waste of time. And maybe I could use my time wiser by doing other things. I don't know.
I think we all, it was interesting in the 90s when we came out, when Refused became like a bigger band, well, in our little world, how people had a very clearly defined idea about what a political activist was, and how people could come down on us and were like, you're not politically active enough because you're not doing this and this and this. And then we would always say, well, what we do is with the band is political activism. And then you had to sort of, once again, like, balancing out, like, how do I live a life and still be active in my mind and active on things that matter. And I think a lot of people that I met in the 90s, they're really gung-ho about the direct action and the protests and all that stuff. They're really burned out really quickly because it kind of overtook their entire lives and identity. And then, for me, I always said this, every we play live all the time. I say, the revolution is not a sprint, it's a fucking marathon. Like, trying to change the world is a marathon. And a lot of people, when they claim the identity of the revolutionary, and then you don't overthrow capitalism within like 2 years, then it's kind of disheartening and you want to give up. And for me, it hasn't been, I mean, I still go to protests, I still go to demonstrations, I still pull my weight as much as I can. Every night I get up on stage, I talk about politics. Every fucking record we put out is politics. But then to find that balance with living your life, being a person that your friends want to hang out with.
Yeah, I have a few of those friends that are unbearable. Or they're not, I can't be around them. I just too much.
No, exactly. And I mean, that's when something, anything, not just politics, but when something becomes such a big part of your identity that you can't really meet other people, then it is a problem. And I mean, whether it's being like, oh, I'm really punk, so I can't hang out with people that are not punk. I mean, that's just, it's not very constructive. Like
Yeah.
we're most of us are multifaceted individuals that have all these different ideas and emotions. And interestingly enough, being a human, like you have a lot of contradicting ideas and emotions. Like you can, I mean, I really dislike capitalism. I think capitalism is the root of the problems. I love buying records. There's all these like you are. There's all these contradictions within us, and especially living in this world that's quite fragmented and confusing. I mean, that's just a part of being a human being. And if you become too rigid, then you also become quite unbearable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is something that I've learned from my own mistakes.
Well, I was gonna say, and then I'm not throwing shade, as the kids say. I'm not throwing shade at you in any way, but like that contradictory behavior, like you mentioned, it's one of the reasons I love what you do. But you think about your earlier days, very gung ho against establishments and corporations and all of that, but then we see you putting out a record with a big video game company that kind of
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. I love Cyberpunk. It was an amazing game. I know that a lot of people didn't think so. I loved every minute of it. But that's something that you think about, like, oh, well, is that selling out? Like, did they sell out? What's going on? Like, it's a weird, contradictory thing.
Yeah, I think it's, for me, as a conversation that was, I mean, as a kid of like, of the 90s hardcore scene, the selling out conversation was like every conversation you ever had with anyone in the 90s. And then there was a point when all that tipped over, because I mean, I'm 50 years old. I've been doing punk rock, political hardcore for the past 35 years. There's got to be a point where I'm like, well, I'm not really, I'm not doing this because of this and this. This is actually just who I am. So I think there was a point when people like, I mean, you can still hear the cries of sellout once in a while, but most people are like, well, these people are lifers. They're kind of the real deal. Once again, making the balance, like, so yes, we did write music for a video game right after we released a record called War Music. So I mean, that's what it is. It's like you do some, and I think still talking about sellout and the concept of what that means. I think you sell out when you stop being true to who you are, and when you stop being curious, and when you stop being like excited about life, then you become sort of a sellout. I mean, there are plenty of bands out there that never sold out, and they just kind of did the same thing. I mean, maybe that's the sellout. I don't, maybe they love doing it. So, but it is interesting because I've always been true to the next idea for myself. The political foundation that I have, that's never going to change. That's just who I am. And I mean, sometimes you put out an Invasion record, it's not overtly political, but you can see the sprinkles of my ideas in it. And then you put out a Refused record called War Music, which is all politics. And so it's just a matter of like, once again, we're multifaceted individuals. And some days your focus is over here, some days your focus is over there. But then as we grow older, the core identity of who you are doesn't really change, I think. I mean, sometimes maybe something really drastic happens and but for most of us, like, once we're past like our 35 years old, you're pretty set in what you think about the world,
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, in terms of selling out, like I only think of it as a real sellout if you go and you start combining yourself with or working with major corporations. And I'm talking like Coca-Cola, like, you know, the big bad ones. CD Projekt Red is a small video game company. I'm not too worried about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm not either.
Yeah. But like, it's just an interesting, like you said, life is multifaceted. Your opinions change the older you get. Like even with me, and I'm going to say this with all due respect, and I'm going to do it just so that people know I'm not a poser. But you know,
we'll see about that now.
Yeah, right. Refused up. You know, right before the break. You know, Shape of Punk to Come was, you know, life-changing record for me. That first line to start the album with I got a bone to pick and a few to break, like that defined most of my 20s. That was such a good line and just so intense. And, you know, I spent that amount of time. That's what I started analyzing later on. So from the break, which was what, 99, 90s, and then 98 to 2015, that's how much time I spent with that record. You know what I mean? I listened to it religiously, monthly, whatever you want to say, for that many years. So when Freedom came out, the first song, Electra, came out, I was like, oh my God, they're back. And then, you know, I went crazy. And then the record itself, I wasn't open to the idea of you guys working with a pop producer. You know what I mean? I wasn't open to it. I was just like, oh no, what happened? And then afterwards, years later, War Music comes out. I was like, oh, it's a return. It feels like a return to the angry, really rock heavy or, you know, more hardcore punk heavy version of you guys. And then I went back and heard Freedom and I'm like, I was just being an idiot. I wasn't paying attention. That's what it was. I was set in my ways for so many years.
Yeah. You know? I'm going to tell you something funny about that. Freedom, it was tough. You know, like we could have come out as the second coming of Christ and people still being like, I don't know.
Sure.
Because that's, and we kind of knew, we were like, we're up against some impossibilities because exactly what you said, a lot of people spent, you know, like 15 years listening to Shape of Punk to Come, the formative years. Like you met your partner and you listen, you know, like there's all these fucking parameters to how the importance of that record. And then you're like, here's new music. And people are like, you know, but the interesting part about Freedom is that the pop producer that we worked with, we only worked with him on 2 songs.
Yeah.
And it's Electra and 366, where the 2 songs on the record that sounds most like old Refused.
Right.
Because the pop producer, his favorite bands like Refused, Breach, he's into like hardcore music. He was like a hardcore metal drummer before he became a pop producer. So the 2 songs on the record that he produced are the songs that sounds most like old Refused. Anything that we did ourselves, that's just like us, you know. So it's interesting because a lot of people have that reaction. And I mean, being the kind of dicks that we are, we're like, it's really important that it says in the fucking bio that we're working with Taylor Swift's producer. Because that's kind of how we think about things. We're like, we're going to piss people off. And a lot of people got pissed off. And then, you know, some people are like, well, Electra song is pretty ripping. I'm like, yeah, that's the one he produced. It's just funny that, you know, as you say, like you're a preconceived notion of what it should be. And then, I mean, there's a lot of songs on that record that they're a bit weird, and we're definitely like feeling our way a little bit because I mean there's like 14 years of not writing music together, so there's definitely some like where we put out some feelers and like, can we do this? Can we do that? But yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, my brain automatically, like, I read the bio, working with pop producer, and then I listened to the album, and I was just like, I didn't read the details that it was those songs that he worked. So I was like, oh man, I don't know. And then, you know, so I wanted to clarify to people, like, I was an idiot, and then I went back and listened, and also just taking into account what you just said. There's nothing more punk rock than that. Like getting a producer that's worked Taylor Swift or Britney Spears and making them do Refused record. It just, that's incredibly like, fuck you in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of how we operate. I mean, we're very high on self-sabotage. We love to kind of fuck with people's idea of what we should be or how we should behave. And, so, and I mean, writing freedom. I mean, as I said, it was a tall order, no matter how you turn it. And that's a record that we felt like we needed to create. And then with War Music, I think we felt much more in tune with what we are as a band, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you need to sort of like, you need to do something so that you can take the next step. And I feel that Freedom is one of those records, like we needed to do that record. And looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, there's a couple of things I would change on that one if I could. But it was at that time and point, we needed to create that piece of art so that we could do War Music, so that we can continue to be a band, basically.
Yeah. So speaking of that, it's been War Music 2019. We went through a couple of years of craziness with the pandemic. Have you guys been writing for a new Refused?
Yes, we are. I mean, it's been. War Music came out in 2019, and people liked it. And we started touring, and the touring went really well. But we only did, I mean, for obvious reason, we only did a little bit of touring. Mm. And we did a tour of the States. I mean, we did a tour of the States. I flew home from LA the day they shut down the airports.
Wow.
It was wild. I landed in Umeå, and the next day I was supposed to do like a thing at a book fair in town, and that got shut down. And when I landed in Sweden, they were like, well, they shut down all the airports in the States. Like, this is actually happening for real. Mm. So during that US tour, it's interesting because we played 7 new songs in the set, and people really liked it. The reviews were great. People loved the show. So we felt like, give this record some time and momentum. We were thinking like by the fall of 2020, when we come back to the States to maybe do Riot Fest, all those things, people will love this record. And then the pandemic happened, and it really took the wind out of our sails. It was really kind of disheartening to be like, after Freedom, to feel like, okay, now we're gaining some momentum. People are enjoying the new record. A lot of the songs from War Music, they're so much fun to play live. And then to have that taken away, everybody got fucking knocked down by the pandemic, but it took us a long time to sort of get our bearings right, because it was quite disheartening. They were like, all right, so what do we do now? Like, and because obviously then with the pandemic, the record didn't really go anywhere. So it took us a long time, but yes, we are writing new music. We have a bunch of demos. Everyone's a little bit busy at the moment, but I am hoping that there'll be new music next year.
Okay. Yeah, it's a really unfortunate.
I'm hoping. I'm not going to make any promises because we move really slowly with Refused. But there's demos, there's songs, there's ideas. Some of it's fucking super fun, and there's a sense of creative freedom that's quite refreshing. So it's cool.
That's awesome.
We're in a good place right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate thing because, like you were saying, the momentum for more music, and it was like the right time because everybody in the States was very politically charged with Trump in office. Everybody had an opinion, and it was either they're very angry about Trump or they're very angry about people against Trump, and it was war music because we were basically in a war. People were talking about civil war happening. So so it was very, very appropriate, and it's just unfortunate it didn't get to play out. When it comes to this new record, not that politics have changed much, it still sucks. But how much of American politics affects your writing? living in Sweden. And I mean, how are the politics in Sweden? Are they similar? Because I've heard good things from over here about Sweden.
Yeah, that's all going to change, though. American politics affect everything that happens in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever there's some nonsense going on over in the States, it affects us. I mean, because of the country that America is. And also being someone that I have so many friends in the States. I mean, I've toured the States more times than I can count. You obviously keep your antenna out and be like, okay, what's going on now? And I mean, the good thing from a European perspective is that not much is going on in the States right now. I guess that's it's better than Trump, where it's like every week you're like, but this has to be like the low point of politics. And then next week, like, oh, no, there's no bottom to this madness. So, I mean, I guess that's a good thing. But yeah, it affects how you write, because a lot of the ideas that we talk about, they are international. They're applicable for the entire world. I mean, if you talk about economic and political social structures, it's not just Sweden, it's the entire world, and stuff that happens in Sweden or in Europe is affected by what happens in the States and vice versa, So, I mean, it does, but I must say, I didn't really want to talk about it because it's insanely depressing, but we had an election 2 days ago, and we have a bunch of political parties in Sweden. We don't have like the States where you have two opposing sides.
Yeah, red versus blue.
What happened the last couple of elections is that the right-wing people kind of formed alliances, and then the left-wing, there are no real left-wing people, but that's a whole nother conversation. But the leftist leaning has formed alliances. So there's basically two blocks of people. And the last election, a party called the Swedish Democrats got somewhere between 20 and 25% of the votes. They were started in the 80s by Nazis.
Oof.
And they're the second biggest party in Sweden right now. And their whole political agenda is just like, no immigrants, get rid of immigration. People need to return to their home countries. They talk a lot about ethnicity, and they hate culture, they hate music, they hate arts. They're fucking horrible. And they're the second biggest political party in Sweden, and the right-wing alliance won the election.
Oof.
So there's going to be some real changes in Sweden, and if you are a person of color, there's going to be some trouble. If you are sick, there's going to be trouble. If you are unemployed, there's going to be trouble. It's not a great look for Sweden. And Sweden used to be a country where, as you said, you hear good things about Sweden. And when I travel the world, there's a lot of goodwill towards Sweden, because we were a country based on the idea of solidarity and equality. And there's been waves of immigrants coming to Sweden where we assimilated them, taking care of them. And now we're just, I mean, it's fucking, the Swedish Democrats is the biggest party in the world that's has roots in Nazism. It's fucking insane.
Yeah, man, that's wild.
They had 300. Listen to this. In the last 10 years, or it's not even 10 years, they've had 300 people of their party expelled because of Nazi connections. 300 people.
Jesus.
In a political party in Sweden. You're like,
yeah.
So it's kind of bleak over here at the moment, and a lot of people, like, as I said, something growing up in a society where we did talk about solidarity, we took care of each other. And I always talk about like the reason why I'm so loud and I talk so much is because I'm strong, and I need to speak for the people that are not as fortunate as I am. And the reason why you are strong is that you can help people that are not as strong as you. And we're definitely not going in that direction in Sweden. So it's quite frustrating. Hopefully fodder for a whole lot of lyrics.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said. That's what I said when Trump got elected here in the States. I was like, well, at least we're going to get a bunch of really good punk albums out of this.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I'm no politician. I am a musician. And a lot of this frustration, you channel it into the music, and that's kind of what you do. And that's kind of how you can cope with the world, basically. Like, you can cope with these things, and you have this channel. It's funny. I started a new band during the pandemic.
Okay.
It's like a punk band where I play guitar, and Sarah from INVSN and the Donuts and International Noise Conspiracy, she sings and plays bass. And it was right when the pandemic was happening. It was a Black Lives Matter protest. I think I wrote 30 songs in like 3 months, because it's so easy. It's just like every day I'm like, oh, that's a song just waiting to be written. And I'm hoping that might be the only positive outcome of this election.
Jeez.
Write some songs.
Do you feel that you would leave Sweden if things got really dark?
No, I think what we need is for people to actually stay here and
fight.
Take the fight, and I think it is interesting, because I never left the small town where I grew up in, because I feel the same way about, like, if you want a scene or a art movement or culture, people actually need to be there for that, and not just move to Stockholm or New York or whatever. So I feel somewhat of a responsibility to be engaged in where I live. And me and my partner actually talked about just yesterday after the election. We're like, maybe we should actually get politically active for real, not just talk about it on social media or in songs, but actually get politically active, because maybe that's what it takes,
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, hopefully it's not as bad as it seems. It's bad. It's not a good look.
It is bad. We'll see. It's still early days, but the Sweden Democrats, they've been, it's interesting, because all the other right-wing parties has said for years that they're not going to cooperate with the Swedish Democrats. And then a year ago, they just did a full 180, and they were like, well, we're just going to embrace them, and, they're going to be part of our alliance. Everyone's like, yeah, that's not going to work out great. So actually the biggest right-wing party got usurped by the Swedish Democrats. They lost a lot of voters, and the Swedish Democrats, they just gained a lot of voters. I'm like, yeah, good. So we'll see what happens. I think there's going to be trouble when they try to form a government, because the Swedish Democrats are like the second biggest party, and I think they want posts. But the other parties said, well, we want to form an alliance with them, but we don't want to give them posts. So it's going to, I don't know. It might get messy.
Oh, man.
We'll see.
I hope it doesn't. I got to a point when Trump was in office that I thought there was no recovery. And it's not that we have recovered. It's still pretty weird over here. But and there's still the looming, maybe in the next election he comes back. So, but we made it kind of through Trump. So I have hope that you guys will make it through this, even though it's a terrible
I hope so.
association.
I hope so, it is like, I take some solace in that. I'm like talking to my partner. I'm like, well, all my friends in the States couldn't believe it when Trump got elected. And they made it through, so hopefully we can make it through this one as well.
Yeah, man. I've told the story before on the show. I was at a Daughters, the band Daughters?
Yeah.
I was at a Daughters show when Trump got elected, the night he got elected. And everybody in the room, you could just feel it, like everybody, oh no. I left. I watched 2 songs and I left because I was depressed, and also I was kind of concerned because I started feeling this. I don't know if you've ever been in a room where something is about to happen, or it felt like something was about. I felt it in the air. I'm like, I don't want to get shot out here. This is going to get crazy. I'm going home. But like I said, we made it past that. So let's talk about something a little bit more chipper, a little happier. The Shape of Punk to Come is about to turn 25.
Yeah.
Do you have any big plans? perhaps a anniversary show tour thing. That seems to be a popular thing for people. Or a repress of the vinyl, anything like that?
We're working on some vinyl stuff.
Okay.
We'll see. I mean, it's one of those deals where it's like, because we just did the Songs to Fan the Flames 25-year anniversary with like a ton of cool demos and unreleased tracks. There's not a whole lot of stuff around Shape that we didn't release, but there's a bunch of stuff that so we're working on something. I don't think there'll be shows, but I'm not sure. I can't rule it out, but it just feels like I think it would feel like what we did in 2012.
Right.
But we'll see. I'm not ruling anything out. It is quite wild that it's turning 25 next year, and we're going to do something to celebrate it. I'm not really sure what yet, though. So
you should do one show in LA for me, personally.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, that's that. I was going to say, maybe, I don't know if you have access to this stuff, but one thing that was really impactful for me in 2015 when you guys did, I think it was 2015, Coachella, when you guys did your big, was it Coachella?
Oh, that was 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
Well, you did your big Coachella comeback. That show was incredible. Like, the audience was really into it. The performance was amazing, and I can't find it online anywhere.
Oh.
When I YouTube it, yeah, they filmed it professionally. I watched the live stream. It was great, but then I can't find it. What I have is a lot of cell phone footage. So,
that one too.
So if you guys can get that footage and put it in a DVD or something, that would be a good thing to add to the.
That's not a bad idea. I have to see and check, because I know I have a lot of friends back home in Sweden that watch the live stream, and we got a lot of happy texts after that show. So yeah, that would definitely be something that we should look into. Yeah.
How did you feel? Considering your last show was in front of like 50 people and the cops broke it up and everything, what was it like for you going on that stage in 2012 on Coachella and having that visceral, like, mass crowd kind of blow up in your face?
For me, it was fine. Noise Conspiracy played Coachella twice. We did do a lot of big festivals, and Noise Conspiracy was much, much, much bigger than Refused ever was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, but for the rest of the guys, I think it was quite terrifying. None of them, David did like a couple solo records, then he played guitar and sang in front of like 100 people, but the other guys, they hadn't really played live since we broke up.
Oh, wow.
So I think for them, I was obviously very nervous, but it wasn't as nerve-wracking as it was for the other guys, because I had played on big stages. Noise Conspiracy played the main stage at Coachella whenever that was. It was super early in the middle of the day, but we were at the main stage, and so I've done that trip. But yeah, I was a bit nervous. I think the other guys were terrified.
Well, we're getting close to an hour, so I want to ask you a couple like random, just to get to know you questions a little bit.
All right.
So when you hit a new city on tour, what do you do when you get there after sound check, after load in? Do you go out into the city? Do you get food? Do you look at records? Like, what's your favorite thing to do?
Like you just said, my favorite thing: get food and records.
Food and records.
I have two apps on my phone that I use. It's Happy Cow, which is like the vegan food. How do you find vegan food in this city?
Okay.
And then there's an app called the Vinyl District, which is like a vinyl record, like where the record stores basically. So that's what I do. And if there's time, I'll try to hit up a museum or something. But yeah, vegan food, record stores, maybe some vegan food, maybe a museum. Yeah.
Okay. How many records do you have in your collection? Do you have it categorized? Do you have a list?
Yep. I have 12,500 records.
You could tell that Sweden doesn't get a lot of natural disasters, huh?
Yeah. I mean, this is my record room. You can't. I mean, there's records everywhere in this room, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm at about 500, which is like nothing compared to your collection, and I'm
Still
worried.
a collection. It's still a collection.
Yeah, 500 is not it's not nothing, and
No, it's not nothing at all. I mean, I have to say, I have a bit of a problem, and the amount of records I have. I mean, if people have anything over 200 records, that's a collection.
Mhm.
I went a little bit overboard with things, you know.
Yeah, I mean, my concern mostly living in Los Angeles is like, what do I do if there's a big earthquake? You know, which records do I
Yeah.
grab? I feel like I should have a box with like my most prized possessions that I could just grab
Yes.
and run away
Yeah.
with. But yeah, and also just move if I ever move, because I'm not, you know, I move around too much. I'm like, how are you going to move 12,000 records?
I mean,
Those movers are going to hate you.
House. We moved to this house. It's coming up in 2 years now. Yeah, it was horrible.
Oh no.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
But no, so okay. I was lucky enough that we got the keys to the house the 1st of November,
That's my birthday.
and we did a lot of remodeling. So every day for all of November, I brought like bags of records every day. So every day I moved a little bit for a month. So that's how I did it. For a month, I moved, like I filled the car with records every day for a month.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
That sounds too much. Yeah, I've been trying to limit myself now. Like, all right, I'm gonna pick my favorite bands, and I'm gonna have every album from those bands. But like now, if it's a band I don't know and somebody just gives it to me, I'll give it to somebody else. Like I'm trying to control it, but it's hard. It's hard. It's so hard.
I have too many favorite bands.
So speaking of bands, do you have any new bands that you're listening to regularly?
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of new music. I'm very much. I think that if people come out and say, "Oh, there's no good music being made today," then they don't listen to music.
Yeah, they're not listening.
There's so much good music coming out. I mean, there's a lot of good hardcore out there. There's a lot of good like indie post punk stuff, and just, you know, I don't know. I listen to a lot of new music.
Okay. So no bands stick out that are like your favorites right now that are like constant rotation?
I listen to a Turkish psychedelic band called Altın Gun. That's one of those that keep returning to that record. I really love Turnstile. I'm just gonna put it out there. Fucking amazing band.
So good.
Swedish band Viagra Boys. I listen to them a lot. Let's see what else I got going that's new. There's an artist called Lingua Ignota that I think is fabulous.
She makes me sad, so I can't listen to it too much. I feel every time I listen to the album, I get really depressed. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah, but I like that. I like that emotion. So.
Yeah. No, it's a good feel. I have those types of days where I'm like, I need to hear that. But you know.
And what else? What's that? Chubby and the Gang. It's pretty great.
Okay.
From the UK, like punk hardcore. I mean, there's a lot of good music out there. And I mean, I'm one of those dudes that just every day I want to discover new music. Every day I want to hear a record that I haven't heard before. I mean, a lot of it's old, but it's stuff that I haven't heard before. So I'm just like, all the time, just trying to find music.
All right, I guess I'll have to send you my my band's old record from 2000 and I don't even know 12. I think is the last album we put out.
Do it.
I'll put that out for you.
If it's on vinyl, I'll put it in the. I listen to it. I put it in the collection. It's fucking great.
Awesome, man. I just saw news that the team behind Cyberpunk is going to keep doing stuff. Are you guys going to continue your relationship with them? If they could do more movies, or if they do anime or more games, like, is that something you're wanting to do?
I would love it. They're super cool to us. They're really cool people. They're massive fans, basically. So I would love to. I know that they're doing the Samurai soundtrack that we did. I think it's going to get a vinyl release.
Nice.
Finally. which is kind of cool because it's like not a new Refused record, but it's like kind of close.
Technically,
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, I just had, is there any venue that you haven't performed at that you kind of like a fantasy venue, and also if you were to pick a fantasy tour package to play that venue, what would it be?
Oh, wow, that is a difficult question. Let's see if there's any venues where I haven't. I mean, I've played a lot of venues.
Like there's one, the common answer I get is the Red Rocks in Denver.
Oh,
That's a common
never
one.
played the Red Rocks.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. That'd be a cool place to play. I mean, we played Madison Square Garden Theater.
Okay, so that's
not
attached.
the big room.
Yeah.
I would like. That'd be cool. I mean, to play Madison Square Garden proper would be pretty awesome.
Okay. And who would be on that bill? It would be Refused, and who else in Madison Square Garden? MSG.
How many bands could I pick for this bill?
Let's say 5.
You,
wow. Including you, so 4.
And can it be bands that are not playing anymore? It's a dream bill, I guess.
Sure, yeah, it's a dream bill, however you want it.
Let's do Bikini Kill.
Okay.
We were supposed to play with Bikini Kill in 2020.
Oh.
It didn't happen. We were supposed to play with them at a festival, and it was like that day it was us and Bikini Kill on the punk stage. That would have been rad. So let's say Bikini Kill. We'll do Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. They were kind of cool.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, one of my faves. So he should definitely be involved. Let's see what else.
2 more.
2 more. Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, it's like I would Voivod. I would have Voivod playing just because I love Voivod. I don't think they get the recognition that they deserve. Fucking Voivod.
They've done some big tours here before the pandemic. I mean, they were here with I forget who else there were. There were some big tours here though. But,
yeah, I mean, the last 2 records are great.
Yeah.
Some Voivod. Oh, let's just. I mean, they play Misfits. Let's do Misfits as well.
Yeah, they're still playing.
Nick Cave, Voivod, Bikini Kill, Refused. That's a good show.
That's a good show. I'll pay money to see that at Madison Square Garden.
I mean, the Misfits already play Madison Square Garden, so
Yeah, that could be your foot in the door to get in there.
Exactly. That'd be perfect.
Well, Dennis, thank you so much. It's a real honor to talk to you. Like I said, I spent 15 years, however long it was, jamming the same album. That's not something that I've done with any other band, really. So huge influence on myself and my friends, and I'm really glad to see that you're still going. You're still making new Refused music, and you're still cranking it out, even after such a crazy, couple of years of pandemic that most people would have given up, but you're still going, and I'm happy for it. Where can people find all they need to find about you online? Just you on Instagram, is that the best option?
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram is not super exciting, but I'm pretty good at updating about my all my different projects. I'm going to do a little bit of blatant self-promotion here.
No, please, yes.
The Invasion record that came out is fucking fabulous. Probably one of my favorite records I've put out. And then next year, there's a new Fake Names record coming.
Oh, okay. Great.
Which is, so good. So good. And then my punk band where I play guitar, we have a record coming out next year as well.
Okay. And what's that
one? Venice Casino.
Venice Casino?
Venice is the town where I live.
Okay.
In the north of Sweden. Yeah, Venice Casino.
All right.
It's pretty kick-ass. And then so I'm just trying to stay busy, try to work on new music, and then somewhere on the horizon there's new Refused music coming as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, both the fake names and the Venice Casino record, they're done, recorded, done, everything's done. So just, trying to get them out to the world. And I hope that we're going to do some touring with fake names next spring.
That would be very cool. I would like to see that.
I would be very, very cool. I'm very excited to do that. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, make sure you guys, you're watching and listening, follow Dennis on social media so you can keep track of all these projects. I will definitely be blasting out whenever Venice Casino comes out and the new fake name stuff. I'll be blasting it on social media. Yeah, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad we finally did this, and hopefully it's not the last time. Hopefully we can do it again.
No, it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad we finally made this happen.
Excellent, man. Well, thank you so much, and stay in touch. Don't get lost. Cheers.
Thanks. Awesome, man. Have a great day.
Oh,
and I'm gonna have a great evening. It's 11 o'clock over here, so I'm gonna.
Yeah. It's 2:00 here. I'm gonna go have lunch.
Awesome. Well, have a good one. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Take care.